Hey everyone. So I know I haven't posted a video in a while and I'm still recovering from the operation that I had on my eyes. So things are a little bit blurry still, but I'm going to starting to play and starting to get back into it very soon. And one thing that I was watching a lot of streams lately, and I've had this opinion for quite some time, but it kind of feels like to me that towers and just defensive fortifications in this game are somewhat useless. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about it. Note that this is an opinion. Everyone has their opinions. Maybe the fact that static defenses are weak in this game is actually a good thing. Maybe it's not. So this is just more of my thoughts, and I want to just hear what you guys have to say about it. But let's just jump in, right? You get towers. They're pretty cheap overall. They're 150 wood, 50 gold. Initially, you can just upgrade all of them just by getting the
Πρόσταγμα,
upgrades.
ναι.
And then after that point, you can just purchase one for 150 wood and 100 gold if you're Greek. And then if you're Egyptian, then it's just going to be gold and it's just going to be 200 gold, right? So what is a tower essentially, right? The initial tower that you're going to get is going to have 750 hit points and it's going to be 8 pierce damage per second and has a multiplier of ships, but it's between 4 to 18 range, right? And then you can also get crenellations, which is going to give it a little bit of bonus versus cavalry and give it a little bit of more range. So if I were to get this, you're going to see it's going to be a slight bonus versus cavalry, and it's going to have a little bit more range, 2 more range. Now, is this worth it? That's what's going to be the discussion piece in this video. Personally, I don't think it's that worth it. I think getting the upgrade for your initial 4 towers might be worth it, but making towers after that point seems somewhat useless, right?
Τέκτον.
Because
Ναι.
purchasing another tower after that for 8 DPS and 750 hit points, it doesn't do that well in terms of actual military combat. So if you're trying to use it to push an opponent and whatnot, it doesn't do that well. So what I'm going to do firstly is let's just go and do some tests. I'm going to test each unit and I'm going to test it in the old game as well to show you the difference. And then at the very end of this video, I'm going to give you my opinion. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. All right, so in the first test, you guys can probably see that there have 3 hoplites in front of me. So the 3 hoplites are taking damage from the tower. I just want to see how long it takes for the tower to kill 1 hoplite. You can see the timer is in the top left. I made it nice and big. And roughly, it's going to be around 19 seconds or so. So 19 seconds to kill a hoplite, which it seems somewhat slow to me. But regardless, if the hoplites are actually moving, as you can see here, the tower does almost nothing to them. It's completely useless. And most of the time, what's going to happen with units is they're going to be walking around, running around, and hitting at the same time. So 19 seconds is not going to cut it because it's going to be much longer than that when you actually think about the fact that they're not going to be standing still most of the time. Now you might be asking yourself, how was it in the old game? Were towers the same way in the old game? And I think no. I think they were a lot stronger in the older version of the game. You can see in this video that it kills a hoplite in about 10 to 11 seconds, which is almost half the time it takes on Retold. So hoplites have generally lower pierce armor. What about a cavalry unit? They usually have higher pierce armor. They're going to take longer to kill. But even with crenellations and the first attack armor, first attack upgrade, you can see that the tower is taking a significantly longer time killing the Hippias. Now this is with the bonus multiplier as well. It takes about 30 to 31 seconds to kill a single Hippias. So in my opinion, 31 seconds is kind of insane. That's a very long time to kill a single unit. On the older version of the game, as you guys can probably see here, this is with crenellations as well. And on here, it takes about 1/3 of the time to kill a single cavalry unit. So note that there's not going to be complete accuracy in these tests. Like the retold version of the Hippicon has 40% pierce armor and the legacy one has 25%. So there's going to be small differences like that. But in general, the towers in the older version of the game are much stronger than they are now. So when you looked at the towers that we were testing right now, they were the weakest version of the tower. You also have access to the guard tower and the ballista tower. However, in my opinion, it doesn't really make much of a difference between the two because as the towers get stronger, the units are getting even stronger. So while you're spending a significant amount of money to upgrade the tower, you're it's not actually getting that much better. For example, the ballista tower, it costs over 1,000 resources to upgrade, and you need the guard tower before that. So it's and then when you factor in the consideration that infantry or any type of unit will have medium, heavy, and champion, and they're going to have extra pierce armor and any god related techs, towers get weaker as the game progresses. In my opinion, these towers are just tickling these units. It's really, really small of a difference. But what about Migdos? Migdos could be a lot better, right? So let's consider two towers versus one Migdol. If you actually look at that, you're going to see that the Migdol and the two towers are somewhat the same. So in this sense, is it better to just make Migdos? Because Migdos, yes, they have a little bit of extra favor cost added to them, but you're talking about not having to upgrade the towers from, the basic tower to guard tower to ballista tower. You can just make Migdals. And then on top of that, you can produce units from there. So, in my opinion, better to make Migdals than make towers. So, in my opinion, most units are going to perform better than actually making defensive fortifications. Even something like, for example, a slinger. A slinger, if you look at this, is actually outputting better DPS than the towers in the earlier tests, but obviously they cost a little bit more. But this is the worst unit you can probably make for Sahaplate for Egyptian, right? And you can see that it's still doing reasonably well in terms of the DPS department. So honestly, here's my opinion. This is up for debate. You guys are more than welcome to disagree with me. I know these tests are not entirely accurate, but you kind of get a feel for it, right? A little bit of a ballpark. But if you look at defensive fortifications in this game compared to even like if for those that played Age of Empires 4, I know Age of Empires 2 has better defensive fortifications, and our older version of Age of Mythology has way better defensive fortifications. This game has very, very weak defensive fortifications. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it depends on the person. Some people who are aggressive players like that because now, defensive fortifications are not going to sway you away from being aggressive, right? You can raid as much as you want, you can push your opponent. You're not going to have to be worried about a tower getting in the way, right? But my opinion is you need to balance out the playstyles. You have to have a defensive playstyle for all the defensive players out there, and you need to have an aggressive playstyle for the aggressive players out there. I think towers are on the weaker side at the moment, and they're favoring the aggressive player. I think they should be a little bit buffed. I think the Migdol needs a small little touch up. The Migdol, the fortress, the palace, maybe 10%, 15% DPS increase. The tower itself needs a huge DPS increase. I think it shouldn't be as strong as Legacy per se, maybe, but it should be a lot stronger than it is right now. Taking 20 plus seconds to kill a hoplite that's not even moving is a little bit bonkers, in my opinion. Now, the hoplite, like let's say the hoplite is moving, the tower will do like almost nothing to it. It's not even going to do any damage whatsoever. And most of the time, when enemies are in your base, they're going to be moving, attacking, moving, attacking. So the output of the tower is going to be almost nil. So, you know how it took 20 seconds plus to kill one hoplite with a tower? You're probably looking at like 40 seconds in my opinion. So, is it good to make towers? Right now, towers are good in certain things. For example, if you need vision of an area, you need a garrison point, then you can make towers. It might be useful. But in terms of using towers to push the way that we used to use them before, or using towers as a fallback point, it just isn't there anymore. And I think that creates a problem for a lot of beginner players too, because imagine you're playing against a Loki player who uses his flaming weapons. Now if he uses it in the middle of the map, sure you can run away, right? You have a little bit of leeway there. But let's say that Loki player uses his flaming weapons in your base. Those four towers that are supposed to be protecting you almost do nothing to the Loki army. The town center has a little bit of a punch, but those four towers have almost no DPS whatsoever. So it's not going to save you from a very strong flaming weapons push. You need, I think, a little bit of leverage there is needed so that aggressive players just can't just walk over players and kill them with like crazy timing pushes, right? Like you have the flaming weapons timing push, or you have a Contarius timing push. It's not fun to lose a game just to a single push, right? If you're losing a game, if you lost a couple of battles, you lost some territory and then you're losing, in my opinion, that's justified. But losing because your opponent makes a ton of army, presses flaming weapons, and just kills you in your base, I think that's a little bit silly. Or the same thing, a Gaia player makes his like 15 Contarius, runs into your base, starts sniping all your villagers, and your towers can't do absolutely nothing to him. Because you saw in the test, it takes like 30 seconds to kill a non moving Hippocon. Imagine how long it would take to kill a Contarius that's running around in your base sniping villagers. It'll do absolutely nothing to it. So, this is my opinion. I want to hear your opinions as well. I think towers need a significant buff. We're looking at probably like 20 to 30% increase in DPS. I think Migdos and all fortresses, I think, need at least 10 to 15% of an increase in DPS. I think the game shouldn't be too heavily focused on timing pushes. I think the game is more fun if we have more playability. If we're fighting over different spots of the map, we're fighting in different areas. It's a lot more fun rather than just, massing up a massive army, hitting that flaming weapons or any type of timing push and just absolutely killing your opponent. Or, for example, let's say that you lost a big fight in the middle of the map. Now you want to retreat back to the safety of your defenses, remake an army, and try to fight another day. Well, you can't really do that right now because most of the time, towers and fortresses and stuff are not really going to save you from a bigger army. That's why I think a defender's advantage needs to be strengthened a little. I do like the aggressive nature of Retold, but I think it's too much on the aggressive side. It's too much on timing pushes. I think we need to take a little step back from that. Anyways, would love to hear your opinions. I know that this is my opinion. It's not that scientific, it's just how I feel about things. I want to hear your opinions as well. And let's have a discussion about this in the chat. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.